Just saying.
Once you get that going.
Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone in the audience. How are you tonight and online? First thing I would like to do is call up Kathleen Scipio. And I think it was about 2 months ago, we had Gloria up here. Nick had been with the Celebration Foundation for, I think, since 2006, 2007. Very long time. And she has retired, and her and her husband are moving over by Tampa. We wished her very well. But we were lucky to have Kathleen Scipio, who lives here in Celebration, very well known. I'm going to let Catherine spend 3 or 4 minutes here introducing herself again and everything. What we really wanted to do was welcome her to CROA. Several of us, she lives here in town, she was very involved with the Boys and Girls Club and stuff like that, so a lot of us know her. She can hit the ground running. There's nothing happening in the next month, so she's got a month to just relax. So with that, we very much as a board would like to welcome you on board. And please just take a couple of minutes.
Thank you. My actual first official day of work was welcome to the neighborhood. That was a great way to see the partnership with CROA and the town and the community volunteers. And I got to meet so many donors and volunteers and community partners because they all had a table with a tablecloth. So that was wonderful. Brian's right on the money. I have been a resident for 10 years. We moved down here initially as a vacation home and then decided to become permanent residents. And one of the first places I walked into was actually the Celebration Foundation office. And not everyone knows that because I didn't know anyone, but I was raised by a single mom that couldn't write a check for charity, but we volunteered, quite frankly, everywhere. So when I moved here, I went into the foundation and said, how can I help? And I met Mike Jackson, Debbie McDonald, and Risa White. And it was the first year that the families in transition children were coming to our schools. So when I said, how can I help, they put me right to work. And for 10 years, they kept me working as a volunteer. So I am thrilled to be coming home, I think, as the executive director, and I will not let this community down because it's so near and dear to my heart. But Brian really was speaking very broadly that I had nothing to do. We just survived Founders Day. We walked in the parade. We had a new urbanism event. We have Wings Power Luncheons. We just bagged our packing program for Learning Without Hunger, because when the schools go on Thanksgiving break, we give the children more bags to send home because the schools are closed, and that's what they depend on every day. So we had to bag more food to prepare them for the Thanksgiving break. And then the biggest weekend of the year, where I formerly was known as just the volunteer reindeer running around town, is the Celebration Foundation's Holiday Home Tour. We have kicked it up a notch with some eating, drinking, and dancing the night before at the VIP Winter Wonderland. And that is Friday, December 6th, and tickets are available in the office. If you want to come in and have coffee with me and buy some tickets, I'm there. You can buy them online. And then we have 2 days of visiting homes that homeowners decorate of their own time. And then we have volunteer opportunities for corporate engagement and our Celebration High School students that need community service hours. So it is a great weekend to support the foundation, and then in turn we support all our programs. So thank you for welcoming me. Thank you for having me on the agenda twice, but I only knew once, and I look forward to working together. Thank you all for all that you do.
And for the VIP event, if people do want to come, there's still plenty of tickets available?
There are plenty of tickets available, yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much again. And now we will open the meeting up for owners' comments. We were quite flexible with CCS. We won't be with CROA. If you want to make an owner's comment, right now is the time to do it, please. So are there any comments from anyone in the audience? We would be happy to take it. And nothing there. Okay, thank you very much. Steve, can we verify that the meeting has been properly noticed?
Yes, it was.
And can we verify a quorum?
Just for the audience and those watching at home, there are two board members on the phone, so you do have a quorum.
And on the phone, we have Vanessa Winter and Mary Ann Berry, and Kevin sends his apologies. He has a town center event downtown with Luxon and TCCA that is keeping him busy tonight. He may join later. Okay, so can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
If we can make one change, I would like to move up, I think Mary Ann may have a time conflict later, and we had an action item on this, item number I-1 there was the insurance renewal, and I know Mary Ann and Susan, and maybe Steve, I don't know, met with the insurance agent yesterday, and I was hoping to just move that up to, actually, right after adopt agenda, so we could just get a briefing on yesterday's meeting, because I think that would be good while Mary Ann's still with us. Is that acceptable?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so the motion is, and the second are both adjusted. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, if I can then, on the insurance meeting yesterday, I don't know who wants to lead the conversation. Can we just get a briefing on how yesterday went, and if there's any issues we need to be aware of?
I'll just kick it off, Marion.
I was going to say, I'll just say a few words and then turn it over to you.
You go ahead.
So, but I just basically, for me, what I wanted to say was I felt the meeting was really productive and interesting, and everything was in line with what I would have expected it to be. I am very supportive of the direction that staff is going. I'll let Steve fill you in on some of the more interesting aspects, because, you know, insurance is very riveting. And but I was very pleased with the levels of coverage and the way that the policy was crafted. It aligned very well with what I feel is appropriate for an organization the size and scope of what we are responsible for. So I'm going to let Steve give you the details, but I did have the opportunity to go over the entire proposal with Steve and Lou, and I found it to be, I was very pleased. I was very pleased with the result.
We made a lot of changes last year. Go ahead, Steve.
Lou Byron is with Sile Insurance Group, and he came and met with Mary Ann and I yesterday. The areas of insurance that we reviewed were property insurance, broad form comprehensive general liability insurance, directors and officers liability, and then directors and officers liability for CCS. We looked at fidelity bond, we looked at business auto, workers' compensation, liquor legal liability, your umbrella liability, boiler and machinery equipment breakdown, cyber liability, and environmental liability. All of these areas have been shopped around for comparable premiums. One area that we did get into some deep discussion was with our property insurance. And we won't get into too much detail here because it is very comprehensive when it comes to insurance, but there was one option that had a 2% deductible, and it was quoted at a certain price, and then there was another option that was a 3% deductible, but along with that option, you could have one hurricane per year at that 3% deductible, but every other storm, whether a tornado, any other type of storm, would only be a $5,000 deductible for every bit of damage to the community. So not $5,000 per building, but for everything. And as he explained,
And it per, I wrote it down, I have it with me. Can you give a little more detail, I think, to help people understand it? That 3% is at one time. So if we get 3 hurricanes in a row, we only pay 3% on the first hurricane, and everything else we're done with deductibles.
So the 3% is 3% of the insured value, or 3% of what?
I believe it's 3% of the insured value.
That's what I thought it was last year.
So we talked about an example of if it was $60,000 for your deductible. for one storm. If you had a 3-year storm year, like we did in 2004, the other two would not require a deductible again. It would all be covered under the first storm. And then in addition to that, any other storms, whether they were tropical storms, hurricane, or tornadoes, if you get a winter blast, whatever that may be, it's just $5,000 per additional storm as a deductible, and that covers all of your facilities, all your structures.
That'd be hail damage as well.
Hail damage, anything. And so the difference in price, you actually got a reduction in your premium from $39,900 to $37,900 to do it that way. So after the discussion.
It's not, it's called, in the reinsurance industry, it's called a top and drop. So it's not an unusual thing. I'm familiar with it.
Okay. And then what we really looked at is what did we budget, and we budgeted around $182,000 for D&O and all the other insurances. And this came in at $179,208, so it's a couple thousand under what we budgeted. And you'll get the $2,000 savings also with that 3% option, so it's actually closer to $177.
Okay, so then when will a package be available to go out to the full board for review?
Well, he just needs to do a minor adjustment based on this
Okay.
option, and we can get that out to you, hopefully by the end of this week. But I believe you asked to have it on the December 2nd.
Right, so I mean, if we
workshop.
get, I was thinking if we have it by even early next week, we've all got a week to read it then, so
Okay.
that's good. So Mary Ann, you're totally comfortable then?
Absolutely comfortable, and I have to say I was very much in favor of the option with the 3% and the $5,000 no matter what additional storm, because the storm situation is getting worse, and we have a lot of unnamed storms, and to have the type of coverage that was listed in the policy for that low of a deductible to cover everything everywhere that is under our auspices was exceptionally. I'm calling my insurance guy for Girl Scouts and asking why I don't have that option. That is the level that I was impressed with, the opportunity that offers for savings when you do have, because those events, those deductibles can really hurt you. And so I think it's a very wise choice. I was very comfortable with the package.
Any change in carriers or same carriers?
Most of them were the same carriers. I don't think there were any significant changes. And last year, Brian was the liaison that met, and I know you and Mary Ann both are inside industry and know some of the company names, and some of those that you had mentioned in the past that you weren't comfortable with, they're not included
Good,
at all.
okay, gotcha.
And then
Now, I was comfortable with the choices. I think they went for a property. We're now with Tower Hill.
Tower Hill.
Tower Hill. They did go out to market, of course, and Tower Hill came back with a very. It was Tower Hill that came back with a strong. I don't have it in front of me, so I might be incorrect. But none of the ones that on our void list were chosen.
Well, the premium, I think, was $20,000 more for the other options for property.
Is Tower Hill on there now?
Tower Hill's the company that Lou's recommending.
We went through this last year, I'll do this offline. I'll send some notes, and then, okay, so we got that.
Can I just make one more point,
Yep.
too, for anyone that's watching? So the board has a almost $500,000 contingency fund that they have kind of put away. And that is to cover for any premiums that come across from storms and damage. Also, any type of tree damage that would take place from storms. So comparable to the 2017 storm, I think we ended up spending around $90,000 in tree damage. And I don't believe we had any premium that we had to pay for any insurance claims. But it just gives you kind of a general idea of the premiums from the insurance and then what you have set aside to be able to cover those and take care of tree damage.
Okay. Okay, so I appreciate, Mary Ann, you looking at this. I tried to stay out of it this year because I think a fresh set of eyes is always good. Once we get the package, we'll look at it and we can all share comments and, go ahead, Glenn.
The rates went down, but Now that the athletic complex is online, how did
Well,
that?
no,
Quite a few
it's
reviews
under
went up.
budget, but it was up about 20 or
Yeah, we
25,000.
budgeted 12% increase, I believe, and,
Okay.
you had quite a few of your rates did go up.
If you look at Nation,
You budgeted for a 12% increase, and the increase landed at about 9.1%.
right, because if you look at nationwide, especially on casualty covers, there's been an explosion in rates. There's been an explosion in, you can watch TV and see Morgan and Morgan and all your favorite attorneys who tell you to call me, and, those get passed along. Those are not freebies at the end of the day, so everybody pays those. And I think Mary Ann probably does the same thing as I do, is I look at the carriers. Now, I spent my entire life in the insurance, reinsurance industry, so I can look at the financials, and when I really look at players, I look at can they survive the second or third event, because a lot of Florida companies live off of reinsurance, and if they have one reinstatement and there's two events, do they go bankrupt? That's what I worry about. I worry about, can the players survive? That's how I think about it.
We did have a little bit of that conversation, and there was some conversation about whether coastal areas were being insured, and I don't remember exactly what the terminology was, but Tower Hill was talked about in that sense, and more inland type properties.
Okay,
that they
well, there
were
may be
insured.
new data, because we
And
have to.
they seem to me, I think they're pretty well capitalized, if that's what you're talking about.
And
Yeah.
they're state back too, I believe he said, but they're not doing a lot of coastal properties.
Okay, we'll look at it.
But we'll certainly do some follow-up questions if you want to just get them over.
No, I mean, it'll be easy once we see the package. Okay, good. Anything else, or we know we've got that on the agenda coming? Good. Thank you, Mary Ann. Let's go to approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Second, Vanessa?
Any comments on the minutes?
Nope.
For the sake of the audience, we review them all online and share our comments ahead of time, so what gets put in here is a poly package anyway. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Committee reports. Do we have any comments or questions for the committees?
I do have one comment.
Go ahead.
At Monday's CROA workshop, we talked about what I observed at the K-8 fields on a weekend, and looked to me like it was a soccer league event. Steve and Nikki did some research. Turns out it was flag football with probably just some random people kicking soccer balls around during that time. So I want to clarify that the Celebration Youth Soccer was not using the fields that day. It was flag football. As a further follow-up to that, I saw today Nikki and her team have managed to move the soccer goals back up against the fence. I think they might be locked down there, or at least up against there, so that they're not in the middle of the field, which is where they were when I saw them, which is partly what made me think it was a soccer event that was going on. And the Recreation Committee met today, discussed the use of the fields. Flag football, it's my understanding, is going over to the complex for their next season, and that will be part of the discussion there. So I think from the Recreation Committee standpoint, as liaison, I can tell you that they are working incredibly hard, and they've done a great job. We got a terrific report today that I will summarize for the board on the usage of the Celebration Community Fields Complex, CCFC, its rental, and how it's going. So I think we're making real progress. I mean, I think we're getting, for the first time in my experience, we actually have numbers that tell us what we're making and what we're spending with this one particular asset. And it's going to make our job of management and directing management much more effective over the next year.
Okay, good. Any other comments or questions for any of the committees?
Just a quick thank you to the task force for the charter review. They finished everything and submitted it early. I don't know too often when the deadlines are actually missed or made ahead of 2 weeks ahead of schedule. So thank you very much for all their hard work.
And we discussed this the other day, but for purposes of the audience online who may watch a board meeting, The board is giving Gary any final comments by this Friday, November 22nd, at which point, and he's also expecting comments from Tom Slayton by November 22nd, who is the attorney for CROA, and we're hoping for TCC, CJC comments, which will probably drag a little later, but they have quite a fewer items to do. And then there can be a final meeting, and then we're still looking to get this thing really rolling out big time in early January. There'll be communications and stuff in December, but it'll be voted on, and we will be hassling everyone in the community repetitively to vote for it, because it's important. We do it once every 10 years, and we need a strong voter turnout. So we'll be calling out volunteers everywhere to help get out the vote on this one. But I agree. I mean, I reread the whole package again this afternoon, and even though I was on the committee and had read it several times, it was a darned impressive job. So I was very happy with it. So anything else on committee reports, or I move on? Liaison reports. CCDD, any comments? Or Osceola County, I don't know of anything either. Okay, so we'll pass by that one.
Just quick second on that one. On Osceola County, December 1st is the deadline to give feedback
December 31st.
regarding 31st. Yes, sorry, thank you.
Yep.
December 31st.
And I think, I'm actually glad you brought that up. I think a lot of people have got in comments, but I think as we get closer to the middle of the month, we probably need a lot of people just to follow up again, pro or con, I don't care, but just so the county doesn't think we forgot about them. That's a good point. Island Village update, David's not here, so I don't, Steve, do you have any other information or anything?
I don't know. They just had a general ad hoc meeting where they came and introduced some players, because they
Yep.
have some new players, but nothing new at this point.
From a financial review perspective, there was no new financials because the board had been moved up, so it would be the same report Bond gave last month, so there's no new information there.
In December, you'll get the October and November.
Correct.
Yeah, in December, they'll get October.
Yeah, because it's still
January,
accelerated because we
December.
accelerated the dates. So management report, Steve, we'll turn it over to you.
This is going to be very quick also. The management report's in your board packet, and it has been posted online if any of the residents would like to read it. But I just want to give a quick update on the UCF sustainability study. We met, Brian, Jackson, myself met with David Mitchell, Professor David Mitchell from UCF, and he reviewed the product with those two. And then I have a follow-up assignment with him on December 4th where I'll be meeting with him, and we'll be going over just some additional information he's looking for from management. But the final presentation will be at a workshop on January 6th to the CROA board. So the entire CROA board will see the full packet January 6th. And any residents that want to attend.
Yeah, I think the community is going to be impressed with the thoroughness of the study. What we saw, what Brian and I saw, and Steve, was really enlightening and helpful. It will be a useful set of metrics for us as we look at an RFP process in a couple of years. But I think beyond that, it just creates a benchmark and a structure where we can really start to analyze what management does, how they do it, where they could be more effective and more efficient, what they're doing well. I would also note, this is the first of its kind. There are no HOAs that we're aware of anywhere in the country that have done something like this with a research university looking at a management company. This is the sort of thing that typically is done by a city or a municipality, and I think it's a forward-looking document and step, and I'm really excited to share that with the board and the public on January 6th.
I'll be honest, I was shocked. I was expecting, oh my gosh, now what are we going to tell we did with the money? Instead, I actually looked at something and I said, this has the potential to really be useful. Because I mean, this costs $10,000 to $12,000, and for sometimes for $10,000 or $12,000, you get maybe not a whole lot, you know. But this, I thought, was actually a pretty darn good-looking product that we could actually use. What we talked about was taking the one piece of it and structuring it slightly different to incorporate it right into the management report, and it'll be something the whole community sees on a monthly basis going forward. So,
As Jackson said, it really defines some metrics to give real data on how things are going, and then gives key performance indicators. So it gives us a playbook to say, if this is the expectation of the board to be whatever that number is, we can follow along with that number through and along the lines of Jackson commenting on the numbers we're getting from the athletic field complex. That's what we're gonna see more of, that we can put in the board report, as opposed to a lot of narrative. It's more qualitative data.
and I think we got lucky. I think CCMC did a very good job of working with them, which I do appreciate and thank you for. And I think UCF was probably willing to use Celebration as a loss leader, because this is going to be a good enough product that they're going to try to duplicate it many other places and probably charge a little more money and have learned off of us. So sometimes you can get lucky, and that's okay.
Well, and then the other item I had from the management report is Yellowstone. The gentleman from Yellowstone always religiously attend these meetings, so I want to make sure that if you have any questions for them, or if Todd would like to talk about anything when it comes to maintenance, but they are here tonight.
I looked at the reports. Really, darn near everything was a 2 and in pretty good shape. Is there anything of great relevance to talk about? Because they really seem to be pretty good. We can't even browbeat them.
Wait for the next report. No, they, like I said at the, I think it was the last workshop or the last meeting, they have had some ups and downs, but they've gotten over that hump. This time we're going into winter, which is a little easier for them. That's where they can concentrate more on weed pulling and some plant replacements that needed to be done. So we're moving forward with that. They are also getting our poinsettias again this year for our poinsettia tree out in the lobby, as well as Savannah Square and Town Hall outside. So thank you for that. They sourced those out for us. Other than that, they're on their every other week mowing schedule. So if you see some grass not being cut, it's every other week now, except for the sports fields, which is once a week.
But that's a different.
Yeah,
Oh, you're talking about the regular
Yeah,
sports, not the
yeah.
sport complex.
Any other questions?
No. What I will say is, you can sit down. I thought it worked very well with what we had done there. The service areas, Susanna and Tim sent me a draft today that I've started looking at. We're actually going to have a one-pager on each service area. I got to give them a few comments, and we'll send it to the board. But I like having reports. I like having the Yellowstone New Leaf type report in the book. We're going to have a report on the service areas. It's going to be one page. Like, do they have a committee? What, residents just, it was fascinating to me going to the service area meetings, because sometimes they just want to yell for an evening because they don't think they're being heard. So I want a one-pager, which will be more, like just a grade snapshot type thing, because it just helps monitor it. So it worked well. I liked what we did with Todd. We're going to do the same thing with the service areas. We'll put that in place in the January-ish type time frame. That worked well.
And then Nikki will be putting in the sports complex data also on a monthly basis.
And it will be important, starting with financials in January going forward. I want to see Civic Corridor P&L. So we got to think about what that looks like. I mean, we told people with the budget, 80 in revenues and 350 expenses. I want to say, here's the real revenues and here's the real expenses. I don't want to have anyone not hear and see the truth. And I'll steal a little of Steve's thunder here, and he can follow up on this. This Friday, we have got the carnival, and we have got the, who's the act again? I forget their name. JR? New Jersey's Atlantic City Boys. We, the board, made the decision to push it off from a week ago. How that, people have asked, how does that happen? Well, this is how it happens. The board gets an email on a Saturday, which is the weekend before, and JR says, I'm talking to everybody, next weekend's going to be ugly, and you got to make a decision in 2 or 3 hours. and everybody threw in their 50 cents, and Brian Kinsel said, all right, we got a little bit of everything, we're going to push it off. Just made that decision. The reason we made that decision is last weekend on Friday, there was supposed to be a 70 to 80% chance of rain, wetness, and cold. And as it turned out, it was rainy, it was wet, and it was cold. And when you have a carnival, it has to be set up 24 to 48 hours in advance. We were going to have to put up tents and everything, and the prediction for this weekend was beautiful weather. So we knew that the Founder's Day stuff on Saturday morning was supposed to clear out and everything like that, so we went with that. We pushed this off a week because there's no magic to that one particular date. But I mean, there's a 10% chance of rain in Florida every single day, but Friday, it hasn't rained all week, and Friday's supposed to be a high of 81 with like a low of 62, and it's supposed to be a nice warm day. It's going to be a wonderful event. I heard that things were already starting to be set up. Please come out, bring your children. The concert's going to be wonderful. That was the thought process, and the board made the decision, and we think it was the right decision. And sometimes you get 2 or 3 hours and you have to make a call, and the board did it. And that's, I'd like people to understand that's how the process works.
Yeah.
Anything else? I'm
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
And I would just want to thank JR and his team and the committee, the Special Events Committee. Putting together these kinds of events has got to be an incredible amount of work. When you try and set it up and then you have to say, we're going to bring it back down and then reset it again and make it happen a different weekend and have to go through the stress of that. I appreciate the hours that get put in and the work that's done, and I know people enjoy these events and they're proud of these events. We're proud of the work that you do for us, and as a founder, it means a lot to me that Founders Day events are special, so I appreciate it a great deal. Thank you.
And one thing I would like to, because CCMC takes grief, but I'd like to give some of the people over there in that corner and outside of this room a lot of credit. They put together stuff for last Saturday. Then they find out this weekend they're going to give up more of their time to make this a special event. A lot of people need to understand CCMC does things well. They have their good days and their bad days, but we have a lot of people who care a lot about this community, who do an awful lot to make these events special. They sacrifice their time, they move all over, and I really want to say that as loudly as I can and hope that people really would appreciate that, and I will clap.
The only other thing I would add to that is Susan and I are the faces that sit here in front of the camera, but these guys really make our jobs easier by that passion and how much they care about this community. They really do. And you're right, it's a lot of work for them to move it like that, but ultimately we always want to do what's best for the community, and I think it was the right decision that you all made. So I think it's going to be a great event on Friday.
Perfect.
I want everyone to come out. I think it'll be a great time.
I think it'll be wonderful.
You know, also with the weird hours that you're all out there, day, you're here during the day, you're there down there at nighttime at Lakeside. I mean, don't you ever go home?
And then it just starts back up again.
Yeah.
And the decision was made, we'll just say it right now for everybody, we will have 4th of July next year. Well, that decision has been made, so JR is lining up wonderful entertainment, and the process is underway. So last year was a huge success, and we look forward to another successful 4th of July, and Steve's in charge of the weather again.
That's fair.
Okay.
Brian?
Yes,
Brian?
go ahead.
Just very quickly, before the comment was made about just, the board made the decision, I think it's important to recognize that before the board was even contacted, JR and his team went to great efforts to find out if it was even possible to move it. So all of the phone calls and can we get it done? What does the weather look like? So all the behind the scenes before the board was even involved was incredible. So thank you very much. I'm glad we took your advice. It was a good move.
No, and I thank you for clarifying that, because JR did, and I'm sure others put in a lot of work, and I do. It was great. Okay, anything else on the management report, Steve?
No, that's the end of the match.
Thank you very much. Okay, action items.
I would move to put action items 2 through 12 inclusive on the consent agenda.
Second. I already looked at it. I was thinking the same thing, Jackson. You're reading my mind.
All right, does anybody have a complaint with that, Mary Ann or Vaughn?
I just want to go through real quick, make sure.
So 2 through
I'm
12.
And while
okay.
you all are looking through that, just so you know, all of these youth sports and recreation contracts were all vetted through the Recreation Committee, and they're all making recommendations from them.
Okay, good. Vaughn, you okay?
I'm good with it.
Okay, so can I have a motion for items 2 through 12?
I already made the motion.
Okay, can I
You
have?
already made the motion, and
Vanessa seconded it, I
Vanessa
believe.
seconded it.
All right, Vanessa
Vanessa
second.
seconded.
Any comments? All in
Thank you to
favor?
the rec, thank you to the rec committee for going through everything.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Yeah.
Do you approve on the phone?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, item 13, help me here, how many items are there now?
39.
39. So do I have a motion to initiate the finding process for 39 non-compliance items?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Vaughn?
Second.
Okay, got Vanessa for a second.
Vanessa.
Okay. Any comments?
I just have, it seems like a couple of these streets are like really extensively.
That all goes along with when the inspections are, is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you've got one street, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Well, you have to remember,
12
this
to
is a
13
few letters into the process also, because we wouldn't be initiating the fines if we had.
So the way it works is, we do go village by village for the inspections, and then go back for re-inspections. So the way it works is just how it's falling, because even the Covenants Committee will tell you their last 2 meetings were basically 2 and 3 streets were the entire meeting. So it's just how we're, how we go through the process and that type of thing. So it does, this year seem to be a lot of groupings of the same streets.
Sounds like it's a, never mind.
All right, any other comments? Call the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Steve, before I go to the next agenda item, just talk about the new jobs for people here, just for people who didn't hear it the other day.
Yeah, so Laura Paulus, who just came to the podium here, has moved chairs. Instead of sitting over here with the rest of the team, she has moved into our business office manager role. So she'll be doing all the minutes and running the front desk and business office operations. Susanna McLeod, who has served over the last 2 years very well in our service area manager role, is moving back into community standards. She does bring some expertise and knowledge there from running it for a period of time. And then Tim Prescott, who I'm going to ask to come up since he has never been at a board meeting before. We'll ask him to come up with the podium real quick. Tim came to us a few years back from Golden Oak, where he worked in maintenance. Then he's also worked in maintenance here underneath Todd as the lead. He'll be taking over the role as the service area manager. So if you just want to say hi real quick.
That was quick.
Real quick. So what are you going to do in this service area?
Hopefully I can keep on continuing what Susanna has done over the last 2 years and make the residents happy.
Perfect.
And Tim has an extensive background in working with managing contracts,
Vendors.
working with vendors, painting, construction, those types of things.
Did
So
you
we
do the
think
same
that's
thing
a
over
good fit for
Golden
him.
Oak?
I did maintenance over at Golden Oak, yeah.
Perfect.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we also have some new faces at the front desk. We've had some tenured employees move on to other areas, so we do have some new faces. So as residents are coming in, if you greet them and say hi to them, they're fitting in very well and they're moving right along. So come say hi to the new ladies at the front desk also.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, item number 14, motion to approve 11 CROA intent to lien to owner delinquent.
10.
I have item 14.
14.
Item 14 is 10.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have my glasses on. Okay, 10 items.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any comments? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, everybody.
Aye.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. So let's go to the last item, which is
Service area.
motion to approve 9 service area intent to liens to owner delinquent.
So moved.
Vaughn, second it?
I'll second.
Vaughn, second. Any comments? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, board comments. Any board comments?
I just want to check with Laura, see if, how's the short-term rental program going?
Good.
Yeah.
So we are scheduled, the contract's been signed, we are scheduled to start in the new year, the contract is not.
Oh, we'll start the beginning of the year.
Yeah, beginning of the year.
Oh, okay.
January 1 then, okay.
Yeah, January, so.
Okay. Other comments? On the phone, any other comments?
I have one quick
I
comment.
have no comment.
I just want to wish the audience and those watching and the board a very happy Thanksgiving next week.
Thank you very much.
Same to you too.
All right, for the record, I have destroyed Vanessa's record. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I will motion to adjourn as you destroy my record.
Second?
This is a shockingly short board meeting.
Oh, yeah, it was shorter than CCS. Okay, all in favor, good. Thank you, folks. Have a very nice Thanksgiving, and we appreciate all your involvement. Have a wonderful evening. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Bye.